other people are telling you what to do, whether you like it or not. You're working for other people. And if you don't want to work for other people, you're not going to be successful at all. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Are you ready to start investing in real estate today but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20, and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income, and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars. to claim your free course today. Hey, welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation and another Hump Day Hustle. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, as always, is John Stiles of Bridge Realty. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today, Todd. How are you today?
Awesome. Well, I'm doing good. I got the little kiddos at home for half a day. My wife should be home actually probably pretty soon. And I'm going to kind of take over from there. And we might take off part of the end of the day and maybe go do something fun with the kids. We'll see. So it's what I don't even know what they call it. It used to be called MEA. I don't know if it still is.
I think that's still what it's called.
Yeah. So when I was a teacher, like I remember MEA used to be like, you know, teacher conference, a big learning thing for teachers. And at least when I was a teacher, maybe it's just because I didn't want to go do any of the conferences or anything. It was more of like just a vacation day. I don't really know what it's for, but they call it MEA. We'll just stick with that. I'd say it's October break.
Yeah. Well, and it's been so cold. My kids were saying it's like winter break.
Yeah. Today is beautiful though. Today and yesterday. So today, John, I want to just talk about being an entrepreneur. And I think there's a myth. And the reason why I thought of this topic is I get asked, I would say at least, you know, once every week or two, and sometimes many times in a week, or I should say I get asked, I get told by people they want to quit their job. What are the steps I need to do to quit my job? And, you know, this is why I don't want a job. And, you know, I just talking to somebody the other day, and they were working a lot of hours, and they said, this is why I want to quit my job. And I thought, that's interesting, because I think there's a big misconception of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people think being an entrepreneur means it's going to be easy. And they're going to now be able to do what they want, when they want, you know, how they want, and they don't have anybody to answer to. They don't have to deal with the boss. They can work when they want to work. And I think that's a really big misconception that a lot of people think with being an entrepreneur. Is that the case for you, John? Can you just do what you want, when you want, and work when you want, and don't have to answer to anybody?
No. Instead of having one boss, it's kind of like I have dozens of bosses.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, there's a lot of people to answer to. There's a lot of things to try to juggle. And I don't know about you, John. How many hours do you think you put well, how many hours when you were working full time did you put in a week?
Probably 36, 40, something like that.
Yeah. How many hours do you put in now on a typical week? You probably don't even keep track of it.
I don't even keep track.
So let's just pull a number out of the air that you think maybe is conservative.
It's more like, how many hours do I not work? So yeah, probably, I don't know, 60, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's probably, more accurate, probably even more. And I don't keep track either, but I would guess that I work more. I know most of the time where I am not working, especially during the weekday, I'm not working from about, let's call it 5:30 to about 8:30. And that's family time for me.
Right.
Other than that, I'm pretty much working. And sometimes even during family time, I'm putting a little bit of work in. I try not to, but sometimes I have to do things or I have to have a meeting or something like that during family time. And so we're putting in a lot of hours. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I don't do a ton of work. I have tried to make those more family days. But, like last weekend, I probably put in about 6 hours or so over the weekend, 6 to 8 hours over the weekend. And so it's not that we're working less. I think that's a big misconception. The other thing, go ahead.
When the kids get in bed, then the rest of the workday starts.
Then the rest of the workday starts, exactly. And you're up earlier. And for me, I don't drive to work anymore. So when I was working at, 40 hours, it was a 40-hour week. That was it. And it didn't work at all after that. I shouldn't say that. I did have some take home, so I did have to grade some papers sometimes. I had to get a lab ready for the next day or something like that. So there might be some weeks that I put in a little bit more, but mostly it wasn't much more than maybe call it 45 hours a week. And the nice thing is, for the most part, you're leaving it all there, right? Now, I don't want this episode to be all negative, but I do want people to understand, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, you have to understand the whole scope of it. So, I absolutely love being an entrepreneur, and I couldn't imagine going back to a job. What do you think? Are you the same way, or is it kind of a mix for you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. When you work for somebody else, it's all about their goals and their vision and accomplishing, the benefit of that company, that's important. But, I think that's kind of what drives a lot of us entrepreneurs is we've got a lot of our own ideas and we want to be working for our own goals. And then, so starting our own company, our own business seems to be the way to accomplish that.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some misconceptions, and I want to kind of just break down some misconceptions of being an entrepreneur. First of all, I would say it's, you can be your own boss and call your own shots. And to me, that's a misconception, because other people are telling you what to do, whether you like it or not. You're working for other people. And if you don't want to work for other people, you're not going to be successful at all. For me, for what I do, I have to work for my tenants. My tenants are the most important people. And then I also have to work for my investors. My investors are right up there with my tenants, probably the second most important people, because if my tenants aren't happy, nobody's making money, and then my investors aren't happy. So I have to work for my tenants. That's my number one client. If I'm not working for them, well, guess what? I'm not going to get paid, and my investors aren't going to get paid. So the next people I'm not working for are not going to get paid. So for me, you have to understand that you're still working for somebody. Now, you get to have your own ideas. Like you said, you get to call your own shots and make the company your own and mold it to your personality and to your dream. But you still have to understand it's not just about you. So I think that's a big misconception that I see. The next big misconception is, I think people think that I'm going to become an entrepreneur and that means I'm going to be a millionaire. And can it happen? Absolutely, it can happen. But many, and I would say the large majority of entrepreneurs are making about the same and oftentimes less than those who are working a corporate 9 to 5. And so you may be better off working the 9 to 5. Think about it, the sports athlete, right? We all as kids, or most of us as kids, dream about being some sports athlete. Or at least I know I did. Like I was going to be a professional hockey player. I was going to be a professional baseball player. I was going to do something. I was going to be some sort of professional something. I was amazing, right? I could catch any ball that came to me. I could do everything. But unfortunately, that was only in my own head, right? And reality sets in for most people that I'm not going to become this professional sports athlete. Now, for some reason, we think everybody is going to be this successful entrepreneur and make millions and billions of dollars. Everybody's going to become Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and the likes, where the plain reality is, whether you like it or not, plain reality is you're not going to become that likely. You know, there's people have special gifts, and I think there's people that have special gifts of becoming entrepreneurs. I think there's people that have special gifts of becoming pro sports athletes. I think there's people that have special gifts of doing lots of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean you can become a billionaire by becoming an entrepreneur. Now, can you bust your butt? Can you work real hard? Can you create good teams and systems and do really, really well? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean just because you're an entrepreneur, you can become this multi-millionaire. And I think that's a big misconception too.
Well, and the other thing with that is just how much you're making per hour. So maybe you're going to make the same amount as an entrepreneur as you were with your 9 to 5 job, but maybe you're going to be working twice as much to make that money.
Right. Yeah. So I think people need to be aware it's not a millionaire overnight success story, especially overnight success story. A lot of people think, I think right now there's a danger in there's been a lot of success stories and being an entrepreneur is sexy right now. Like being an entrepreneur before was never that awesome. Now it's like you're a star. So being an entrepreneur, it's a lot more, I think, lucrative than it ever was, at least in our recent history. So, and I think a big part of that, John, is these tech companies that, you've got these Facebooks and you've got, Twitter and Snapchat, and you've got name a tech company out there that's semi-successful. Most of them started from people in their college dorm rooms or in their garage or in their basement, and they're 20 years old or 16 years old, and they started these companies, and now they're multi-millionaires, or in many cases even billionaires. And we go, wow, these overnight success stories, and we think that's going to be us. And now it's became cool. Where if you look at it, it's still an anomaly. It still doesn't happen that often. A Facebook doesn't come around once every 6 months. So we have to have reality in mind. I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody's dreams. I want people to dream to become an entrepreneur, but I want reality to be able to smack them in the face a little bit so they understand, like, this is not just an easy ride to the Golden Gate.
Well, probably the other thing that's really pushing along the vision of it is kind of like the educational seminars and coaching seminars that are out there,
podcasts,
where they're presenting the dream of how great it is, and you can live the life that you want if you only buy our product. So
most people want to talk about the good, right? And I do too. I don't want to sit there and dwell upon the bad. And I can tell you a lot of stories that have happened throughout the years that are negative, but that's not who I don't dwell upon the bad, because ultimately the good outweigh the bad. But you have to understand there is plenty of that in being an entrepreneur. So the reality of an entrepreneur is it's hard work. You have to have a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work. You have to be willing to build the right processes, systems, and teams. You have to be be prepared to fail, fall flat on your face, and then, get up and work at it again. And if you're not willing to do that, it's not worth quitting your 9 to 5 and becoming this entrepreneur. Hey, I want to interrupt this episode real quick to talk to you about Nate Armstrong, our sponsor, Nate Armstrong. He's with homeinvest.com, and you want to get to know Nate. So go to homeinvest.com and just connect with Nate, talk to him, learn about his operation, what he's got going on. He's a turnkey provider, and it may not be right for you, but it could be the perfect fit. So it doesn't hurt. It's a free call, consultation, just to figure out, what they do, what they have to offer. And worst case is you're going to meet a great person who's really well educated in real estate. He's done a ton of different real estate strategies, and probably he's going to teach you a little bit, even on a short conversation with him. So go to homeinvest.com and connect with Nate's company. You're definitely not going to be disappointed. It's worth it. So thanks, and we'll get back to our show. Again, the benefits ultimately outweighed the negatives. So as I'm sitting here telling people the negatives, I do want to, go on some of the positives too. And for me, it was, I could be a teacher, right? And I was a teacher, or I could go work construction. I was pretty good at doing that. And so I could work for a construction company. In the summers, I was getting paid. I think my last year I worked construction, in the summers I was getting paid like $23 an hour. And I was, like 25 years old. That's pretty good pay. I could have went and did that, and continued, and probably, now be making $40 an hour or whatever. I would be worth, and so that would be okay. Right. So that's a decision you have to make. Is that something you want to do? I think ultimately, is it rewarding for you? And are you satisfied with where you're at? And for me, I wasn't. And so I always had this itch to build something on my own. And I think that's what you have to have. As an entrepreneur, you have to have that kind of that burning desire to build something on your own and to do it like that, not just this dream of riches. Because if that's the dream of riches, I don't think that dream is strong enough. And I think ultimately you're going to fail, because it is a bumpy road. So you have to have that extreme burning desire. For me, that's what it was. And for me, has there been bumps along the road? Absolutely. I mean, there's been many mistakes I've learned, plenty of things I've talked about on the show, other things that I maybe haven't talked about, but it's just along the way, those things have happened. But at the same time, it's been worth the ride as well. So John, I'll let you, I just want to, go back to your days working for a company. What was it that led you to go, okay, I want to try this on my own?
Yeah, I think, before I got into real estate, I was in kind of the service industry, I guess you would say. I worked at a auto repair shop as a service manager. And I think, thinking back to that, there was things I wanted to do with that company. And it was a small company, just one location, one owner, couple of mechanics. It was a small company, and there was things I wanted to implement as the manager that I couldn't because I wasn't the owner. Better processes that I thought could be in place, better ways of keeping things organized, better ways of keeping track of things. And what I thought only went so far. I didn't have the power or the money to implement what I thought should happen. So I guess that was maybe some of the backdrop. And then additionally, as a service manager in a small company, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So I did see, real estate as a way to better provide for my family. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of, that actually is very similar to me. Um, I was getting frustrated because I went through a couple different schools and I had what I thought were great ideas I wanted to implement. I thought they would be really positive for the students, really positive for the community. And I would get through some of the process. Sometimes I would just get shut down right away, but a lot of, actually two different times with two different schools, I got really far through the process. And then all of a sudden I was rejected. Both times it was actually because of the administration made changes to the scheduling. So those courses that I wanted to implement into the school district were no longer, going to be valid for the new scheduling. So both times we went through that whole process, I had some really positive things I was going to try to make changes, and ultimately it never happened. And I can, that's two like distinct examples. And there was another one I can remember, and this was when I was student teaching still. The principal, I don't remember the exact scenario, but was talking to the staff and about some negative things that were going on in the school district. And I went up to him and I talked to him and I said, "Hey, I got some great ideas I think that would really help." And he just, without listening to my ideas, he just goes, "Look, I get it. You've probably got some ideas, but that's not how it works." Okay. He said, "People have great ideas. They think it's going to change. Nothing changes."
Wow.
And didn't want me to express my ideas. And that's kind of how it was throughout the schools I was in. It was like, "Yeah, you got great ideas, whatever. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to change." And yet they would talk about the change, but they just didn't want to change. And that was frustrating for me. It was like, okay, I can't really make the difference that I want to make here on my own. So why be here? So that was definitely same thing, same kind of reasoning as what you just said is, and I think that's a strong reason and probably a big reason why a lot of people get fed up with their companies is because they go, "I just feel like I'm pounding my head against the table day after day where I feel like I've got some really good ideas. I'm just going to go and do it on my own." But what I want to warn people is going out and do it on your own is much more difficult than what you oftentimes think. So don't just go out on your own thinking it's going to be easy and thinking that, you can make millions where can you really? So, you know, it go about it the right way. John, you mentioned, and we talked about this, was it last week or the week previous? We talked about the E-Myth, and you mentioned that you're listening to the Audible. I mean, go about it that way. If you haven't listened to it, listeners, if you haven't listened to the E-Myth or read the E-Myth, you read or listen to it, because that's the right way to go about it. You've got to go about your business with the right systems and processes so we can actually expand and grow it. If we don't, we're going to struggle. And even if we do, we're still going to struggle. We just have a lot better chance of success if we do it the right way from the start. Or maybe you've already started your business and now we can switch and do it the right way from now on.
Yeah, I've heard about this book for many years now, and I'm just not a big reader, but so Audible, makes it nice to just listen when you're driving somewhere or something.
Yeah, Audible's been handy.
So I'm finally getting into it, and it's really good. Like every single thing that they're describing, like, yes, I totally relate to this. Just the idea of oftentimes people start a business because they're good at that specific aspect of doing that business. But there's so many other things involved with it. There's marketing, there's branding, there's accounting, there's, customer service. There's so many different aspects of a business. And just because you're good at one of them doesn't mean you're going to be good at running the whole business.
Well, and he talks about being the technician, right? I think that's the biggest failure of entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call them, is a lot of people think, well, I'm good at X, Y, or Z, and so I'm going to start my own company. Well, just because you're good at making cakes, or you're really good at building a house, or you're really good at, whatever. It doesn't mean you're going to be any good at running your own company. In fact, maybe not most, but a lot of those people are actually really bad at running the business. I think of the construction industry because I deal with a lot of contractors, and in the construction industry, there's a lot of bad companies because what happens is these contractors, and I don't know why it's so prevalent in the construction industry. Maybe it is in every industry, and probably because it's easy to start, right? You just need a truck and some tools, and you've got that. If you're in the industry, you already got it. So what else do you need? So it's really easy. It's easy to get a contractor's license. Anybody can do that. You go to a couple classes and you take a test and you're done. So that's probably why it's a really low barrier of entry. And but the problem is they're busy working on the job every day, and then they're trying to somehow sell jobs, and they just can't do it all. And that's the biggest problem is they're going to work on you can't work in your business and work on growing your business at the same time. It's very tough to do. You're never going to expand truly to your potential if you do that. So I think that's the biggest downfall of most contractors. They try to work in the business and work on building the business at the same time. And usually one or the other happens, and then the business never grows.
Yeah, I think you're right. And maybe another aspect of why we do this is probably rooted in our nature of greed, but it's just, we don't like to share. Like if you got to hire a salesperson, you got to share that, a split of the commission or a percentage of the deals. Or if you got to, that's just one of the barriers, a fear or a greediness type of thing.
Yes, that greed maybe, and without saying greed, I would say the other thing is just the fear of, can I pay somebody?
Well, yeah.
So if I gotta hire a person, a guy or a gal to go out and help sell for me, or if I've got to hire somebody to go do the work and I'm going to be the one selling, can I even afford to pay this person? What if I don't have enough work then to afford to pay this person and myself? I still got to eat, right? And so one of the things I think is important as an entrepreneur is try to put yourself in a position where you don't have to think about money for a period of time. Most businesses fail because of the lack of money. So if you're starting a business and you can have enough funding to be able to pay yourself and pay others, or maybe you don't even have to take a check if you've got a spouse that has a really, good job, or you've saved enough money to where you've got, a year worth of income to be able to take, you're really putting yourself in a lot better position. You can cut back expenses, whatever you can do to really, make sure you're successful. I think that's helpful. I think a lot of people are, young people are very good candidates for becoming entrepreneurs because they don't need a lot, especially if you're still living in mom and dad's basement. You just don't need a lot. You don't have a family. You don't have to worry about anybody but yourself. So you got to figure out how you can scrape enough change to, go to the grocery store and buy a week's worth of groceries for yourself. Well, that's not a lot of money. So, but yeah, I think, money is the biggest thing that's going to kill the entrepreneur dream. And like you said, it's that either that greed or that fear of, can I feed another person? And if you don't have that worry about feeding yourself, then the answer is yes, a lot easier to do that, to build.
Yeah, I think a lot of like small real estate investors who maybe they've done one flip and then suddenly they see this huge check and they're like, oh my goodness, I can quit my job. But wait a second here. You got to be able to consistently produce that on a regular basis. So,
right. And now you're relying on that money. Right. And so before you didn't rely on that money, before you had your 9-to-5 cushy job, you didn't have to worry about that $20,000, $30,000 check. And now all of a sudden you quit your job now you have to worry about how are you going to pay the bills. And if you don't have another successful flip, or maybe your next flip loses $5,000, now you're scrambling and now you're in desperation mode. And now maybe you're now having to do the work yourself because you're afraid of losing money again. And now it just snowballs and goes downhill. So instead of quitting your job, let's do 5 flips or 10 flips, build up some good amount of equity there, and then quit your job. Now we don't have to worry about it if we lose some money on a couple flips because we're covered. We've already done, 5 flips and made $25,000 a piece, and we put all that money back into the business or back into our bank account because we had a 9-to-5. Or for me, I went part-time. So I went. I knew I was going to be done eventually, and so I went part-time and I worked a 0.6% job. So if your job allows that, I think that's a really good way to go about it too. So. Anyways, so we're getting a little more off topic than I wanted to, but is there any other points you want to make, John, about being an entrepreneur, positives, negatives that you want to talk about?
Again, going back to the E-Myth book, it talks about juggling, and there's lots of different aspects of your business that you have to keep track of. Again, taking care of customers, taking care of the books, taking care of marketing, and goes on and on. So these are all balls in the air, and as you get busier and busier, if you're the only one doing it, eventually you're going to drop the ball. Yeah. So that's a big danger. So I guess just set it. It's a good idea to just be always putting money away. Make sure that you're making enough profits so that you can begin to hire people to take responsibility for those different balls, so that you're not the only one in it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I struggle with that as well, as I think most entrepreneurs do. But eventually you do have to give things up. I struggled with it at the start of my business. I was the one using the hammer and fixing things. And, I would go into all of my rental properties. I was the guy doing the repairs and the showings and the books. And I did everything. And I was so busy, my head spun. And then I eventually I got rid of the books. And then eventually I got, people to do the hands-on work. And, and still to this day, I do probably more than what I should. And I need to continue to get rid of more things so I can focus on what's really going to expand the business versus what's just going to make the business run at today's pace. Because that's not what my goal is. I don't want it to run at today's pace. I want it to run at tomorrow's pace and the next day's pace. So I want to continue to expand the business. So with that, I have to look at my business and look at what my pain points are, and really have to consider hiring more people and having more people do the work for me or with me. So yeah, I think that's a pain point for all entrepreneurs, and everybody has to get out of their comfort zone. And that's what being an entrepreneur is. You talk about, pros and cons. I would consider that a big con, and a big pro is you have to be out of your comfort zone. Being an employee, you're in your comfort zone, right? I mean, somebody else is paying you. Well, most of the time, maybe you're getting threatened to be fired or there's layoffs, but for the most part, you're in a comfort zone. I mean, you've got a job, you get paid, you go to work, you do what you need to do, and you go home and you're fine. But being an entrepreneur, you're either growing or expanding, or you're shrinking. I feel like there's nothing else in between, and you have to be, in order to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. And so that's the life of an entrepreneur. It's a blessing and it's a curse, right? You love it and you hate it. Cause sometimes I'm like, man, I just like to be able to be comfortable and just kind of take a deep breath. But at other times I'm like, I love the pace. I love always being challenged. I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. But that's the life of an entrepreneur. You're always going to be challenged. You're always going to have pain points, and you're always going to be uncomfortable if you're going to be growing as an entrepreneur and being successful.
Yeah, another one of those things, you love it and you hate it, is most people start their own business because they don't want somebody else telling them what to do, right? So then, but eventually you might feel like, man, if somebody would just tell me what to do.
It is a lonely business. It is. It can be very lonely because who's at the top? I mean, ultimately, if it's your business, you're at the top. Maybe you have a business partner or two, but you're at the top. And yeah, it's a lonely business where you're not you're just the middle management at the water cooler with everybody else, and you're the one that's calling the shots. It's your dream, it's your company, it's your vision, and yeah, it can be a lonely business. It definitely can. So anyways, John, you have anything else you want to add to this deal before I wrap it up?
Well, read the rest of the book, I guess.
Yeah. Read the rest of the E-Myth. I think that's important. There's tons of other great books too about being an entrepreneur. For me, if you're like in this boat, maybe you just became an entrepreneur, or you're thinking about quitting your job or whatever. First of all, if you're thinking about quitting your job, don't just jump to that. Like, don't just jump off the ship unless you really think you can, handle that. But you really got to think about the whole picture. Is it something that really is beneficial to you? Is it something that you're really going to have a burning desire? And then why are you doing it? Is it just to quit your job, or is it truly to, build a powerful company, to make a big difference, to do all those kinds of things that you're going to set yourself up for? And then understand that, look, it's not a game to make millions of dollars overnight. It can create wealth. It definitely can, but the large majority of entrepreneurs, I don't have a statistic, I should have looked it up, but the large majority of entrepreneurs are not making $1 million a year. I guarantee that. Most of them are probably making close to what the average employee makes, or at least middle employee makes. And that's just how it is. A lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of debt, and they're working very hard to provide for their family. And so you have to understand that it's not this sexy, amazing thing. It can be, of course, you can build amazing things, but it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. If you're in love with what you're doing, if you're in love with the business, if that passion and, desire is there, it's a heck of a journey. I can tell you that much. I've had so much fun. I continue to have fun every day. I wouldn't trade it in for the world. But that's not to say it doesn't come with challenges and trials. And, you just got to decide if that's for you or not.
Yep.
Well, cool. I think that's it. That's all I have to say, at least.
Well, very good. Let's, if you're listening or watching this, we'd love to get your interaction with this. Let us know what caused you to jump ship and become your own boss, and maybe some things you've learned along the way. We'd love to continue the conversation on Facebook. You can find us.
Also, John, I would say maybe comment. Okay, maybe you're already an entrepreneur. What caused you to jump ship? And you could comment on some pain points. The other thing I would say is, if you're not an entrepreneur yet and you want to be, what's holding you back, and what kind of questions maybe that you have?
Yeah, that's good. So Pillars of Wealth Creation is what you want to look up on Facebook. Of course, we're also on YouTube and iTunes. So wherever you're happy to go, we're there.
Yeah. Any of the podcast, platforms we're on, you can definitely catch us. Of course, if you're listening, you probably know where to find us. That should be it.
Sounds good.
Thanks, John. Make every day Saturday, man.
You too.
Are you ready to start investing in real estate today, but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20. And if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income, and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars to claim your free course today.